The Bible talks about giants, and most people either ignore it or assume that it's some myth. But what if it's not a myth? What if it's something we shouldn't ignore? What if the Bible is describing something real, something strange, and something that actually matters to the story? Because giants show up in multiple places in Scripture, and not casually. They're not background details. They're connected to something deeper. When people hear giants, they usually think of one name, Goliath. But the Bible doesn't treat him like a one-off. It uses a few different words: Nephilim, Rephaim, Anakim. These aren't just descriptions of tall people. They're groups, categories, something the original readers would have recognized. The most mysterious word is Nephilim. It shows up early, before almost anything else. Genesis 6 says there were giants in the earth on those days. That's before the flood, before Noah, before the world resets. And it immediately raises a question: where did they come from? So let's trace it. First, Genesis 6. Right before the flood, the Bible describes a strange moment: the sons of God and the daughters of men. And then giants appear. Now, people debate what that means, but the text is clear about one thing: something unusual happened. The giants were part of the result. Second, after the flood, this is where it gets interesting, because the flood is supposed to wipe out everything. And yet, later in the Bible, giants are still there. Numbers 13. The spies go into Canaan, and the land of God promised Israel. And they come back saying, "We saw giants, the sons of Anakim, and we were like grasshoppers in their sight." Like grasshoppers. That's not poetic. That's fear. That's comparison. That's men saying, "We do not stand a chance." Then, the time of David. Now we get to the story everyone knows: Goliath. A warrior, over 9 feet tall, depending on how you read, covered in armor, untouchable. But here's what most people miss: Goliath was not alone. He came from a group. The Philistines had multiple warriors described as giants. Later in 2 Samuel, you see others like him. This wasn't a myth, it was a pattern. So why does this matter? Why does the Bible keep bringing them up? Because giants represent something more than size. They show up at key moments: before judgment, Genesis; at the edge of promise, Canaan; in direct opposition to God's people, David. They're always standing in the way. Think about that. Every time God is moving something forward, giants are there, blocking, intimidating, making people hesitate. This is why the story of David and Goliath hits so hard. It's not just about a brave kid and a big army. It's about something that looks impossible, standing against what God said would happen. And everyone else, trained soldiers, experienced men, they freeze. until one person steps forward and says, this doesn't change what God said. Now, this is where people go into different directions. There's some common misunderstanding. Some people try to explain giants away completely. They were just tall people. Others go the opposite direction, turn it into mythology, legends, or something disconnected from reality. But the Bible doesn't treat them like either of those things. It talks about them briefly, seriously, and then moves on, which is important because the focus is never be amazed at the giants. The focus is always what happens when they stand in the way. So when you see giants in the Bible, you're not just reading about size. You're seeing moments where something intimidating, something overwhelming stands between people and what God said. And the question is never, how big are they? The question is, do they change anything? Because in every one of those stories, the answer is the same. They look unstoppable, but they aren't. So be it. May the truth set us all free.